I've been waiting for this!
We've reached the next major character everyone has asked me about, and I know you all knew it was coming. Shadow the freaking Hedgehog.
He's only the second most popular character in the whole canon! Let me get you a chair, Mr. Shadow!
I'd argue that this hedgehog has the most fleshed out backstory in the entire Sonic franchise, so there's definitely a lot to unpack in this video. Welcome to Origin Oracle, my adults. I am TheMentok, the Prophet, YouTube Savior, and without further ado, let's head back in time. So, as many of you know, Shadow the Hedgehog first debuted in Sonic Adventure 2, released worldwide in summer 2001 for the SEGA Dreamcast. This was toward the end of the Dreamcast's life cycle, and in my opinion, this game served as SEGA's last hurrah in the video game hardware market. It was also hard for me to fathom that Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, the Nintendo GameCube port of the game, came out less than a year later. Time really does move a lot slower when you're a kid. Anyway, despite their failing console, this game received a lot of hype and intense amounts of marketing, with Shadow being pushed as this evil foil to Sonic the Hedgehog. Finally, within the games, an enemy who could match Sonic's speed, and he would be Sonic's greatest threat yet. It's actually quite interesting to look at these advertisements years after the fact. Good Hedgehog. Evil, sinister, malcontent Hedgehog.
Good Hedgehog. Subject B. Evil Hedgehog. Introducing Shadow from Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah, this marketing worked though, as Shadow would become the second most popular character in the entire series, and Sonic Team truly wanted to use the dichotomy between good and evil as the major theme of Sonic Adventure 2, splitting the story up into two perspectives, hero and dark. The hero side featured the stories of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, while on the dark side we experienced the perspective of Shadow, Eggman, and Rouge, who was also a newly introduced character at the time. But we'll get to her next video. I always thought dark was an interesting choice of wording as the opposite to hero.
That black hedgehog?
Did you see it? Where is it now?
You'd assume they'd use villain instead, but I believe this was intentionally done to avoid mislabeling Shadow and Rouge as villainous characters, despite their less than noble intentions during the course of the story. Anyway, depending on which side you choose, your introduction to Shadow may have been one of two scenarios. Chronologically, at the beginning of the Dark story, Eggman is seen blasting his way into the heart of Prison Island in search of a top-secret weapon created by his grandpapa, Dr. Gerald Robotnik, 50 years prior. The Guardian Units of Nation
Seriously?
Gun.
sealed it deep away within Prison Island, only for the Doctor to decimate their security defenses and release none other than Shadow the Hedgehog himself, the ultimate life form. Eggman would briefly mistake Shadow for Sonic trying to foil his plans, but this doesn't last very long, as Shadow offers to help the Doctor conquer the world. And to do this, they need the help of the Chaos Emeralds. So Shadow takes it upon himself to steal one, which causes the entire city to turn on Sonic in a bullshit case of mistaken identity. And this would eventually lead to Sonic fleeing the military in the iconic city escape level. Shout out to everyone who played the shit out of this demo over and over on that trial disc they packed with Phantasy Star Online. So after Sonic manages to temporarily evade the military, he stumbles upon the reason for his misfortune. And the introduction to Shadow the Hedgehog for many fans would be this moment where Sonic first encounters his evil double.
Now I know what's going on. The military has mistaken me for the likes of you. So, where do you think you're going with that emerald?
Seeing Shadow completely break Sonic's ankles in this one display of speed.
All right, you ready for them juke skills? Ooh, Barry Sanders! Bro, that dude ankles is still in the other room right now.
It's in the top 10 Sonic moments somewhere. Watch Mojo, write that one down. Anyway, this moment will set the stage for the rivalry between the teams for the rest of the game, but to understand the origins of Shadow, we need to turn the clock back 50 years and head up into space. So, orbiting the Earth 50 years prior is the Space Colony Ark, an enormous research facility created by the government for experiments, scientific testing, and top-secret research. It was here a top-secret initiative known as Project Shadow would begin, a project with the purpose of creating the ultimate life form for presumably militaristic purposes. And the lead scientist brought in to work on this biological weapon was none other than Dr. Gerald Robotnik, the grandfather of Dr. Eggman. And Gerald was accompanied to the Ark by his granddaughter Maria, who suffers from a terminal illness known as neuroimmune deficiency syndrome. His love for Maria would drive Gerald to tailor his research on this weapon to attempt to find a cure to her disease as quickly as possible. So the first successful prototype of Project Shadow would be a lizard-like creature known as the Bio-Lizard. Based on a top-secret report found by Rouge within the events of the game, this prototype of Project Shadow required a type of engine to use the same chaos control abilities we see the actual Shadow utilize within the game. But further down in the same report, it said that the Bio-Lizard began to grow exponentially to the point where it got out of control and had difficulties walking. This, plus the creature having low levels of intelligence and its instability, caused a lot of failures during the testing phase. And all of this made the government uneasy and untrusting of Gerald, so they made the choice to shut the project down. Fair enough, right? They did this by simulating a fake biological accident aboard the Ark to create an excuse to seal away the prototype and kill the scientists on board, and place all the blame on the doctor, and then lined him up to be executed for his crimes. This is such overkill. The guy literally did everything you asked him to. But you know, I'm sure even worse things happen in actual history, so I can't even scrutinize this much. Anyway, while the government was planning this massacre, Gerald went on to the next stage of Project Shadow, creating a much more advanced life form in the form of the Hedgehog, birthing the Shadow that we know and love. And more on how this happened later. Being a much more intelligent being and not requiring all the life support systems that were installed on the Bio-Lizard, Project Shadow was a success, and Shadow himself would immediately befriend Maria, spending considerable amounts of time with her aboard the Ark. Before Gerald could continue his research to find a cure for Maria, the government would send Gunn aboard the Ark to bring about an unfortunate end to the project. And in a desperate attempt to save Shadow, Maria sticks him into an escape pod to be sent down to Earth before she is shot and killed by the pursuing Gunn soldiers, while poor Shadow here is incapable of saving her and is shot down to the world below. So after these tragic events, we assume at some point Shadow is retrieved by Gunn and sealed away deep within Prison Island, which brings us back to 50 years later to where he's released, joining Eggman's efforts to take over the world in an attempt to avenge Maria. This leads to Eggman conspiring with Rouge and Shadow to collect all the Chaos Emeralds to power the Eclipse Cannon, a giant cannon built within the Space Colony Ark by Gerald, which would serve as a means for the Dark Squad here to threaten the world's governments, so they would submit to Eggman. The game proceeds with Sonic and his friends chasing after Eggman and his new team to thwart their plans, which eventually leads to all 6 characters being aboard the Space Colony Ark with all 7 Chaos Emeralds. You guys can fill in the gaps in between, right? And despite their best efforts, Eggman manages to get all 7 emeralds into the Eclipse Cannon, but the Ark doesn't exactly do what he expects. In short, we find out that Gerald programmed the Ark to crash into Earth once all the Chaos Emeralds are gathered, to get revenge on mankind for what they did to Maria. We see in his last moments prior to being executed where he's completely lost his sanity and only wishes revenge on those who took away what he loved most.
All of you ungrateful humans who took everything away from me will feel my loss and despair.
As the Ark begins to plummet, Amy manages to convince Shadow that it's not what Maria would have wanted Shadow to do, which snaps him out of his grief, and he proceeds to help the others stop the Ark from exterminating mankind. So Sonic and Knuckles take point to use the Master Emerald in the core to stop the emeralds from moving the Ark directly into Earth's gravitational pull, while Shadow takes on the Shadow prototype Bio-Lizard to buy them time to stop the Ark. So even after their best efforts, it's too late to stop the Ark since it's already in the Earth's gravitational pull, so Sonic and Shadow use the Chaos Emeralds to go super, while the Bio-Lizard Chaos controls himself onto the Eclipse Cannon to use it as an anal probe.
What?
So Super Sonic and Super Shadow save the day and use their combined powers to move the Ark back into orbit. But Shadow exhausts his energy in the process and falls down to Earth, burning up into the atmosphere, and supposedly dies. At least that's what some of us thought back in 2001. Until we find out Shadow lives in Sonic Heroes, and then for the next few years, Shadow's backstory would be the majority of what defines his character. Sonic Team would eventually dig up all these plot points once again to release this little spin-off title. Yeah, the early 2000s were a different time, and I'll be honest, I ate up all of this angst when this game was announced. You can even see it in some of my old AMVs if you want to go back that far down. But for some reason, Sonic Team took it upon themselves to take suggestions to give Sonic a gun based on ideas that were mailed to them by a bunch of kids. and they believe that Sonic having a gun would have been way out of character, so why not give it over to our boy Shadow here instead? And this game would flip everything we knew about Shadow's origins on its head. But before we get into this whole total retcon dumpster fire, I want to briefly talk about Shadow's early conception. I already made a video in the past going over most of this concept art, so you should check that one out once you're done with this one. But Shadow here went through many different phases. Originally, I think based on these concepts, he was probably going to be straight up evil before they finalized the plot, but that's just my speculation. His original name was Terios, which according to some sources means reflection of, so it's pretty obvious they were searching for a name that was rather fitting as Sonic's foil. For some reason, I can't find anywhere else that defines the meaning of Terios as reflection of. Most of my Googling tells me the term is an old Greek word for making dreams come true, which, you know, seeing how Sonic Adventure 2 played out, maybe this is not that bad of a name. But Shadow's final design would be created by Shiro Maekawa, who you can thank for the Chao pet system that was implemented in Sonic Adventure 1. He'd go on to become a scenario writer for Sonic Adventure 2 and has been quoted to hold Shadow very dear to his heart, which makes me wonder how it feels to see your creation come to life on the big screen.
It was a black site, sir. Someone worked very hard to keep this hidden.
Oh my god! Oh my fucking god!
Project Shadow.
Alright, so after he burned up in the atmosphere at the end of Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Team received a lot of feedback from fans to see him return. The response was overwhelming, and not only did they bring him back for Sonic Heroes, but they moved forward to create his own game, which brings us back to the 2005 spin-off title, Shadow the Hedgehog. So story-wise, this game would bring up new revelations about Shadow's origins that weren't addressed in Sonic Adventure 2. Apparently, 50 years ago, while Gerald was trying to make breakthroughs with Project Shadow, he ran into many failures and couldn't figure things out. So he enlisted the help of an alien named Black Doom that happened to be passing nearby in space with his ancient civilization of evil alien goons. And Black Doom offers Gerald his blood to finish creating Shadow in exchange for the 7 Chaos Emeralds the next time they pull up to Earth on their floating alien comet thing that they call Black Comet.
The professor was in development of the ultimate life force, but he needed my help. So we made a deal. I helped him, and he promised to deliver me the 7 Chaos Emeralds. That's how you were created, Shadow. You would help us do both.
Black Doom tells Gerald that he needs the emeralds to power the comet to enter the Earth's atmosphere so it can drain the energy from the planet. So Gerald agrees to this and manages to finish creating Shadow using the blood provided by Black Doom. But he's not totally pleased with the idea of these aliens returning to destroy the planet. So he also creates the Eclipse Cannon in the Ark so that there's a means to destroy this comet the next time the aliens come around. I mostly leave my opinions out of these videos, but I think all of these plot changes were a little unnecessary. I think that a totally new conflict for Shadow would have been a much better choice for this game, instead of taking what we know about his past and adding crappier details to it. In my opinion, a new plot point without connections to the events on the Ark could have laid the groundwork for Shadow's purpose in future titles, but that's just me. Surprisingly, they would go on to handle this pretty well in Sonic 06, but everybody hates that game, so you know, it's kind of a moot point. But maybe I'll do a deeper dive into Shadow's story in Sonic 06 one day because I honestly think that was the perfect character growth for him. Okay, so how different is Shadow's origins in other Sonic universes like the comic book series or the animations? Well, let's start with the Archie comic. You can kind of tell that once the Adventure series started, the Archie writers took less creative liberties with the newer character backstories. Since like Tikal and Chaos, Shadow's origins remain pretty much intact. He's first introduced in Sonic the Hedgehog issue 98, and his origins on the Ark are pretty much the same as in the games, with him being created by Gerald 50 years prior and developing their friendship with Maria before she's tragically killed. One major change in the course of these events is that Gerald actually has his biomatter implanted into Shadow, and if anything bad happens to him, it brainwashes Shadow to take revenge on humanity. So like its game counterpart, Shadow and Sonic would go on to defeat the final hazard and stop the Ark from crashing into the planet, causing Shadow to fall down into space. But in this series of events, he's rescued by an alien race known as the Bem, who more or less observed the Mobians with little to no interference. If you've watched my Tails origin video, these are the same aliens who saved Tails' parents from death when Robotnik takes over Mobitropolis. So once the Bem save Shadow from space, they utilize his Super Shadow energy to make an attempt to repel an evil alien civilization known as the Zorda. And despite their best efforts, this plan fails, with the Zorda shooting down Shadow, to Mobius during their battle in space, where he meets with Sonic and the other freedom fighters who join together to stop the Zorda invasion.
What is that?
And from here, Shadow is permanently cemented within the Archie plotlines as he searches for a purpose among different groups, even joining Eggman at some point when he finds out that he's Maria's relative. In all other media, Shadow would serve as the resident anti-hero, like for instance in Sonic X, which more or less fully adapts the plot of Sonic Adventure 2. It does manage to flesh out the events of the Ark a little bit, even including the recollection of events on the Ark by the gun soldier who pulled the trigger and killed Maria. I always thought this was a great episode as it shows the soldier fully regretting his actions, with him pulling the trigger out of fear and experience when he was young, which humanizes him a little bit. So while Shadow would fall to Earth after defeating Final Hazard in the anime's plot as well, he would be recovered and rescued by Dr. Eggman. And in the final season of the show, Sonic and friends take to space to gather all the Chaos Emeralds spread across the galaxy to stop the third evil alien race I've brought up in this video, the Metarex. Shadow, on the other hand, while alive, will clash with Sonic's group a few times, losing most of his memories after his fall to Earth. And one episode in this season has Shadow befriending a young girl from another planet named Molly, who despite her age is an expert pilot who resists the Metarex that have oppressed her world for a very long time. Molly would remind Shadow a lot of Maria, and throughout the course of the episode she does gain his respect. And after being double-crossed by other members of the Resistance who tried to kill Molly, she tries one last flight of desperation at the Metarex mothership, and despite Shadow trying his best to convince her to stop, she continues her assault and is killed in the process. This would be another turning point for Shadow, as he'll eventually assist Sonic in finally stopping the Metarex at the end of the series, in the memory of both Maria and Molly. And I think Sonic X, much like other Sonic media, used that last season to kind of figure out what Shadow would do after he's pretty much come to terms with his past. So finally there's Sonic Boom, and there's not much to really say about this universe, especially in the animation, since Sonic Boom is more or less a comedic slice of life spin-off series for the Sonic characters. In the animation, everyone seems to just be chilling on the same island, and I always like to think of it as like the retirement story for all the Sonic characters. Shadow, on the other hand, makes his first appearance in an episode where Eggman gathers together other villains to plan a plot to defeat Sonic. But there were a few games that were released alongside the cartoon series, with Shadow appearing in Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric and Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal. Though there is zero backstory given for Shadow, nor does he have much motivation to be picking fights with Sonic, but he kinda does it anyway.
Shadow, what are you doing here?
Not a great time, Shadow. I'm a little busy saving the world.
Saving the world? You? Don't make me laugh. You're weak. And you know what makes you weak? Your loyalty to your pathetic friends.
Like, this whole game was character assassination for Shadow, and strangely enough, I feel like SEGA wants to take this route with Shadow being somewhat hostile to Sonic just because. I'm hoping this changes, because you can definitely have an anti-hero in a story without them being forced to pick fights with the hero all the time. But at least in Shattered Crystal, they have Shadow being mind-controlled by the main villain, Lyric, and after he's defeated by the heroes, he goes to get revenge on Lyric for this reason. So, much better execution here. Before I end this video, I have to mention Shadow's magnificent reveal at the end of the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie. With this universe carefully being fleshed out, I'm interested to see how many elements they take from Shadow's backstory within the games. All we know at the moment is that top-secret records from 50 years ago regarding Project Shadow are unearthed by gun agents as they erase Dr. Eggman from their database. So will Shadow still have ties to Dr. Eggman through his grandfather Gerald, or will there be a totally different scientist responsible? Does the Space Colony Ark exist in this universe? And will Shadow still be made from the blood of another alien race like the Black Arms from Shadow the Hedgehog? I've heard Sonic 3 is already being planned, so it looks like Jeff Fowler and the team are excited to bring us more, and I'll be here to give my thoughts when it releases in 2024. I know I'll have to do an update video on Shadow when that time comes. But don't be surprised if they take some elements from the Shadow the Hedgehog game, because Jeff Fowler, the director of the movie, actually worked on the CG movie production for the 2005 video game. Honestly, that's one of my favorite parts of the game. I think that intro is actually beautifully done. Anyway, my children, if you've enjoyed this Origin Oracle, spin-dash that like button and leave a comment to help me in that ongoing fight with the YouTube algorithm. It does wonders for a small channel like mine, you have no idea. Anyway, my children, as always, be safe. The Prophet has spoken.